he said, and it's a story, but Sir Alex grew up in a rough part of Glasgow, a tenement house. Gowan is the name of the suburb, and that house, like, it's actually been demolished. Where the road he lived on has been demolished now, but and new buildings been built. But if you grew up on that road, there was an 80% chance you're going to work in the docks, because that's where the most employment was in Glasgow at the time. And his dad worked in a shipyard, and his dad came home from work one day, and he was having dinner with the boys. Sir Alex was around 15, and his dad told a story around how, as he's walking home from work that day, he saw three men building a wall. He went in, said to the first guy, "What do you do?" And the guy said, "Oh, I'm a bricklayer." He said to the second guy, "What do you do?" And he goes, "Oh, I earn £80 a week." And he said to the third guy, "What do you do?" And he said, "I'm building a building that in 50 years' time, my son or daughter can bring my grandson or granddaughter and say, 'Your father built that.'" And he said, he told that story to the class of 92. He told a story every preseason, but he said the class of 92 bought into it better than any other group. And then the likes of Keane and Irwin and, Cantona, etc., the players he brought in, also wanted to leave a legacy and create something that a period of history in Man United that when they retire, which they have now, or when they come back to Old Trafford in 40, 50 years' time, or their son goes back or daughter goes back to Old Trafford in 40, 50 years' time, people talk about that generation. And I think, it's a very simple message, but he was able to keep it simple. The thing about him was, he had old school values, and he came across as gruff and rough and with the press and stuff, but very high level emotional intelligence, and also able to make the hard decisions when a player wasn't performing anymore. And we saw that with Beckham and Keane and Stam, etc. So he very, very successful manager, and someone who it was very good to me over those 4 days, and I really appreciate it.
Obviously, you were there to do a job on your thesis, but as a fan, meeting Sir Alex Ferguson, it must have been surreal. I know you were there to do a job, but at the same time, you're a fan too. Like, that must have been amazing.
Oh, it was unbelievable. Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, I was quite lucky. So I played for Sale Sharks, which are based in Manchester. After I left Connaught, I went to Sale Sharks in Manchester for 2 years. So I was living in Manchester as a 22-year-old Man United fan. And a lot of the sponsors we had were also sponsors of Man United. So regularly there'd be tickets coming in for a European game on a Tuesday night, to go to a box. And I'd be top of the queue. And also where we trained in Carrington was actually next door to Man United. So, we got to know some of the players around, like on nights out, and just there was a bit of a link between the rugby and the football. So it was phenomenal. And obviously, there was a big Irish connection there historically between Frank Stapleton and then obviously when I was there, it was Dennis and Roy, and there was a young lad who's passed away actually from Cork. As well, I was there by Lee Miller.
Yeah.
Lee Miller, and there was a few Irish lads in the academy. It's obviously a little bit different now in terms of the team, but yeah, as a guy who's a United fan from a long time, to get into that environment was phenomenal.
You mentioned the notion of sustained success. I spoke to Brian McClare once, and he said that the morning after they won the FA Cup, the players were in the dressing room. They came in on a high. He said Alex Ferguson came in and addressed the squad, and he said, "Look, we've won the FA Cup, but next year we have to win things again. I want to climb that mountain again." Yeah. And he looked around the dressing room and he said, "If any of you aren't willing to climb the mountain again with me," he goes, "there's the door. We'll find you a new club." I don't think it's any coincidence that modern businesses are using the template of Sir Alex Ferguson, if you like, in terms of leadership, in terms of sustained success. Like a lot of businesses now actually study Sir Alex Ferguson and his leadership traits.
Yeah, and I've listened to some lectures. He's part of the London Business School leadership module. And look at it, as I said to you, it sounds so simple and it sounds obvious, But what you need is someone at the top of the organization who's able to flick that switch and get everybody back on task, for the next job. And he had an unbelievable ability to do that. Obviously, look at, he's he lived it. He was first in, last out. Absolutely passionate about winning. And again, let's be honest. There was people calling for his head at certain times before they turned the corner. I have to admire the board for being able to see he was doing the right things. He just needed time, and eventually then he has a success which allows him to ride out the poor results for a short period. But it's amazing. It's amazing. But you do need, and players. The reality is, so players will respond to someone who has that drive and wants more and more, because and especially the good ones, because they realize that their career is short, and they need to attack the next challenge quickly, because what's done is done. And also I think a lot of elite athletes, they get over a win pretty quickly. It's the losses that hurt you more for longer. So McClare was a big fan. I was a big fan of McClare's. Show my age.
You mentioned joining Leinster in 2005, so I want to jump back to that for a moment, if that's okay.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I guess at the time when you joined Leinster, there was a perception of them that they had the talent, but maybe they were a bit soft. Maybe they didn't have the appetite. Of course, he did go on to have success. He won the Magnet League in 2008. He won the Heineken Cup in 2009. You mentioned little things like taking accountability, but how did you as a club go about changing that culture, or changing the mindset, if you like, to a winning one that could challenge Munster?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it there. As a club, so it's like the Irish teams are usually known as provinces, and one of the things we looked at was actually building a club mentality rather than we're just all here, because there may have been a tendency for players to concentrate on more international rugby, or British and Irish lines, or the off-field stuff, the endorsements, because Dublin's where the market is. Dublin is where the population is, and we had a lot of players playing international rugby who had high profiles, and it was easy to get caught up in the whole celebrity lifestyle culture, which can happen easier probably in a big city where there's a little bit more anonymity than there is elsewhere. I would say that Dublin's still very small compared to a London or a Paris, but that was the thing we spoke about, making it a club, becoming closer as a band of brothers, putting the club first. So if somebody came back from international period, and historically maybe there's a tendency to not play the first week back for the club, or not play well the first week back as a kind of a hangover of the Six Nations or whatever. We were very quick to challenge that and call that out, and make sure that wasn't acceptable, and just started to be harder on each other. And I suppose how it changed is, I'll give you an example, is that probably 2005, 2006, we would go into video reviews on a Monday morning, and maybe outsiders don't understand this, but a match is 80 minutes. You don't watch the 80 minutes, okay? The coaches will get up and actually pick out 3 or 4 clips from different parts of the game that are relevant, that we can learn from, and they analyze those. And generally there's a discussion around those. So that can take 45 minutes in total, and that'll be your review. As a team, obviously individually, you're expected to go through the whole game and your moments, etc. But my point is that probably 2005, 2006, if I had a big mistake in the game, or I didn't know my job, or didn't execute properly, you might go into that meeting basically going, "Geez, I hope I don't," subconsciously, or say, "I hope I don't get picked up on that." And if you don't get away with it, then it's like, "Oh, got away with it." Whereas in 2008, 2009, fellas were putting their hands up before the coach got a chance to put on the footage and saying, "Look, I know in the 10th minute I missed that tackle for that try. That's not acceptable. I'll sort it out. And that sounds easy to say that, right? But, you know, we all have egos. We all don't like to admit we weren't great to our peers because we want the respect. We respect them. So that's the first part of it. But then the most important part of it was if I was the one who missed a tackle, and it might be for a try, if I just miss a tackle and I say, look, I'm going to fix it. Well, then on a Tuesday after training or before training, when there's an opportunity to do extras, you know, I need to be out there doing that. So we become much better at holding ourselves to account, but then also much better at actually putting in the work that would fix the issue. So it might be a lack of knowledge, it might be a technical issue, it might be a fitness issue, it might be an S&C issue. It didn't matter what the issue was. We started to take on responsibility to fix it ourselves rather than being coach-led.
It's kind of like a no blame culture.
Yeah, exactly. Fix it yourself, own up to it.
Yeah.
Be accountable for it before somebody else has to basically blame you. But look at these things. Nobody's perfect. There was times when as players, then we had to challenge another player and say, look, that's not good enough, or I had to be challenged, for example. And then it's how you take that. Do you take that as a personal attack? And do you say, oh, F you, you're a prick or whatever? Or do you say, okay, yeah, I know you're giving me this feedback because it's hurting the team. I accept that. I'm going to fix it.